to back up everything I'm saying, and I'm through talking.
This gymnasium is packed. It is absolutely packed. Yeah.
Welcome everybody to the Alumni Talk podcast. We have some special guests today. 3 of the starting 5 from the George Mason 2006 Final Four team: Lamar, Butler, Folarin, Campbell, Tony, Skinn. Brought to you by the Alumni Basketball League. I'm Ricky Goins, the team director of team operations. We'll be going around the country this year doing different exhibition games. So we're bringing on different alumni to talk about different things from different schools. You can follow us at ablballing.com. That's our website. At the ABL USA on Twitter and at ABL Balling on Instagram. So just to get into it, guys, I definitely appreciate you guys giving here. I'm going to start off with you, Lamar. Just talk about how did you end up at Mason? I remember in high school, man, I was the 8th grader. And I remember hearing about what you and Phil Goss was doing at Austin Hill, until y'all ran into the Raiders. But
they got us our senior year.
just how did you end up at Mason?
To be honest, it's crazy. So my final 3 was GW, Xavier, and Mason. And at that time, my dad wanted me to go to Xavier real bad. They had just went to the Elite 8, and it was David West. I was at 5-star, and they were recruiting me heavy. And I prayed about it, and I told my dad, he was like, "What? You going where?" And I was like, "Yeah," because TJ Thompson from here, he had committed to GW. So that kind of knocked them out. And it was between Mason and GW, and went to Mason. Mason and Xavier. So.
Now, following, I remember you, man. We always talk about that last game I went to after we got eliminated from the playoffs. Watching with Springer, man. I told you that's the best performance I ever seen in live person, man. So you went from that, man, to Mason. Just like what was that recruitment like?
Nah, well, we're not going to talk about the official visit day, but nah, my recruitment, man, it was really, obviously I thought I was going to Georgetown. I'm not going to lie to you. Georgetown was recruiting me heavy, and Coach Estrick was there at the time, who actually, believe it or not, is a professor at George Mason now. We've already hashed, yeah, exactly. It's random, man, and we've already hashed that out. You know what I mean? Why he didn't take me, things like that. But I remember I was supposed to go on an unofficial visit to Georgetown a week before I went on my official visit to George Mason, and I told my coach, I said, "Look, if I go to Georgetown, I'm committing right there. Like this is the school I want to go to. I'm committing." So I get a call like 2 days before my unofficial saying they signed Tyler Crawford. I'll never forget that name. Tyler Crawford. It was from VA. Guard, one of the top guards in the Virginia area, things like that. I said, all right, cool. So they signed him and told me, look, they don't need me. Like they got somebody in my position. And the thing is, Coach Estrick, believe it or not, is also a Springbrook alum.
So, yeah, I did know that.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, oh, he the head coach. He a Springbrook alum. I've seen him at multiple games. This is a done deal. Like, I'm going to Georgetown. Give me that call. And actually, I don't even think he called my coach. It might have been one of the assistants. Like, I don't know what happened, but my coach came to me next day and was like, look, they signed somebody else. And then it was really between George Mason, VCU, UCM, Wilmington, and Providence. And I remember going on an unofficial to Providence, and they had Ryan Gums at the time. And Ryan Gums is the one that showed me around and was basically like, look, man, I don't know what it's going to look like after I leave. And that was another reason. I was like, look, I'm not trying to go to the Big East and lose every single game. Like it's not going to be fun. And then now I see, I'm coming to Mason, and I see like, look, all right, we're not a big school, but they got an opportunity to win the CA championship and get to the tournament. And that was my ultimate goal. Like, look, just try to make it to the tournament. So, I mean, it was really between George Mason and VCU at this point, and it was proximity. You know what I mean? George Mason was, not too far from the crib, close enough that friends and family can come see me. So, I mean, I was already leaning towards that, and then once I saw these two guys, man, on my official visit, man, it was a done deal, man. Like they took care of me, man, and made sure, like, look, man, they made me feel welcome.
And they made you the point forward, man.
Yeah,
that's
a whole other story. Look, the only way I can play is look. it went from being a power forward my freshman year to moving to point guard my sophomore year. And that's another story about Tone and moving to point guard.
Mr. Skinn.
We'll talk about that later.
Mr. Skinn, man, just your route was a little different, man. You went the long route and ended up, being one of the most well-known guards to come through here, man. So talk about you landing at Mason.
Yeah, it was definitely through the back door. I I didn't qualify to high school. So my only option was to go JUCO. And Walter Ray, the GOAT of all time, between Walter Ray and one of my OGs, Leonard DeBellet, they found a good spot for me down there in Texas at Blinn College. And so I go down there and I'm doing pretty well the first semester. And then once the coach kind of heard that I was getting a little homesick and I wasn't going to come back for that second year, he kind of just threw me off to the side a little bit, and things just kind of took a turn for the worse, let's just say the least, down there in the middle of nowhere, Texas. And I remember coming home, and I ain't even hoop. People don't know this. I didn't hoop for like 4 months, from like February until I got home, and I would say like May, maybe June. And then I ended up on PG Community College Kennedy League team. And at that time, I wasn't sure where I was going to go, for my second year at junior college. And so I ended up enrolling in Hagerstown. It was between like St. Jack and Hagerstown. I think Hagerstown just gave me a better scholarship package. I go to Hagerstown. I don't know if y'all remember this because y'all never went to junior college, but they had the what was called the Rick Ball Junior College All-American Camp. It was basically like a showcase for all the local junior college kids. Played well there. I had an advantage because it was at Hagerstown, and my recruitment kind of picked back up. But when Coach L and them came in there, they were the first ones that said that I did not need to play. And so when they came in there and said that, I mean, I had schools from out west that would recruit me when I was at that junior college, like Fresno State, Texas A&M. But I kind of lost a little steam once I came back east. But once Coach L said that, it was like, so I can get 3 years instead of playing one. And what people don't realize is in the state of Maryland, you don't get full scholarship rides like you do in Texas and Kansas. Mm-hmm. Basically, your scholarship or your FAFSA pays for your tuition, and then you got to come out of pocket. Now, it was probably the smartest investment that I made up until this day, because I paid a little bit of money out of pocket to go to Hagerstown. So when I went and told the coach, he lost his mind. Like, what you mean you ain't playing? You definitely playing. No, you can't be here. I'm like, well, you ain't give me no scholarship, so I can be here. Right. And I remember playing in the first scrimmage. I had like 50 in the first scrimmage, and it was like right after that, the recruitment picked up. But like I said, Coach L was like, we don't need to really evaluate you. The junior college ranks, you got to go through the whole year. Teams recruiting you, evaluating, you see if you fit them or whatever. And it's always really a spring decision. But he was the only one, him and his staff were just adamant about, man, just, you don't have to play. We think you can play at the level. And I thought that was like the closest thing for me. Like, who wants to play 2 years if you can play 3 coming out of junior college? And so, I decided to come. I decided to come to Mason before they knew it. But when I came on my visit, they decided to double up the visit and have another guy there. And so it's one of those things, and you guys know this, Lamar, you know how it is on the recruiting trail, following you too, because you're now at this level. Guys come on campus, and some guys be like 60% in, some guys be like 80%. Some dudes be like at 0%. They just know they're not going to commit, right? I was probably 50-50. but I also didn't want to lose the opportunity because I didn't want to go back away from home. That Texas deal was, that shit was the worst. And so we're finishing up my visit. I hadn't yet committed. And then I don't know how I found out, but Bashir Mason was on his visit as well. And you know what coaches do, man. It's all good now because I'm in the business, but they dropped a little info like, hey, by the way, Bashir's here. He's close to his decision. And I came up there on my visit. I came up there with my brother who knows nothing about basketball. And, but we kind of felt comfortable about the situation. And once he heard that, he was like, man, you better go ahead and do it because you might be going back to JUCO. He said something, and it kind of triggered me, man. And I just pulled the trigger and then I was coming, and they ended the visit with Bashir, and the rest was history.
They ended the visit with me in the elevator with Bashir. Coach Courtney called me and he was like, yeah, tell Bosh Tony Skinn just committed. So I hung up the phone. Bosh he was like, man, I like it. What you think? I was like, man, we already got a point guard coming. You might as well just go ahead and go to Drexler.
It's crazy how that goes, man, with you coaches, man. Because I remember one of the first kids I was helping. He was on the visit, and the kid that was doing the second visit was in the airport. He committed, and then they called the kid in the airport and told him, don't get on the plane. I didn't, I was new in the business at that time. I never heard nothing like that. I was like, it happened, though.
Especially at the mid-major level where they're faces budget. If you $2,500 official visit, you still $500.
No, that's true, man. But at the time, I didn't know all that. Now I know. But I was like, man, I was like, that's wild. So yeah. I want to jump to that 2006 year. So one thing a lot of people forget is a lot of people don't think y'all should have even got that at-large bid. Like they feel like I think you guys were 22-6, 15-3 in the league. I think Hofstra won the tournament that year, right? Was it Hofstra?
Nah, Hofstra didn't win it.
UNC.
I think UNC Wilmington won.
UNC Wilmington. That's right. That's right. And so for you guys to go in and get that. First of all, like, what was the environment around the team that year? Like, did you guys feel like you could make that push? And like, this is for any of you. Once you finally got that call, you were going to the tournament. Like, what was your guys' attitude and approach?
Want me to answer that one? You see that dude right there, Folarin Campbell?
Go ahead.
No. So seriously, I tell people this all the time. I think the turning point for our team was because we had the same team for 2 years, right? So our junior year, those guys, our junior year, their freshman year, they just weren't ready. But I'll say when Folarin became ready, we were at VCU, we were down 20. And it was always me, Tony, and Jai talking, right? Leading huddles, timeouts. We're coming out the halftime tunnel, and Folarin pulls us together. And he leads the tunnel. He leads us out the tunnel. And we end up coming back. But I remember looking back, I said that was a turning point on our team because now I felt like those guys were ready. So when they became ready to take that next step, that's when our team took that next step that year. And that was that senior year. And then, too, super confident between him, JV, Will, super confident, no fear whatsoever. So we had a bunch of guys that were just confident, no fear, like going into those environments, it was like, all right, who's next? That was the mentality of that team.
Yeah, not just to add to that, and I think that one of the luxuries of being, from where we are, we're so battle tested through the summers, just through all the runs. It's changed because you don't see the same thing nowadays, right? But back then, we're going to GW, we're going to Maryland, we're going across the bridge to go play against whoever. And I think at some point, from a competitor standpoint, you have 5 guys on the floor that really could score for you and lead you in scoring any single night. So you really couldn't game plan for us. You look at basketball today, especially college basketball, you're game planning for like 1 or 2 guys. If you keep 1 or 2 guys out the mix, you got a good chance of winning the game. You could not do that with us. If they double teamed Ja was going to make sure me, Lamar, Folarin got looks. If they just focused on the post, like I could go for 20, Lamar, Folarin, it didn't matter. And that's kind of how, we were able to sustain it through the league because they could not really scout against us, if that makes sense. And once we got rolling, man, it was, how it is. Confidence is everything, man. And it's just it's tough to beat. So I definitely attest that to, obviously the senior leadership, but, Folarin and Will just being able to step up as sophomores. I mean, that goes a long way in a brutal, 16 or 18, especially in that league at the time. This year, it was very, very competitive. So when you have your sophomores playing the way that they're playing, you add Dave and a few other guys. I mean, we were a tough team to beat.
And just to add to that, man, it was like with all of that, we were selfless. Like we had a bunch of guys, like egos was put aside. I officially knew it when Coach had a talk with me and moved me to the point and moved Tony to the wing. And he told me why he wanted to move Tony to the wing. And I'm thinking like, because he wanted Tony basically to get out in open court and just use his speed. So I'm like, well, why can't I do that? You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why I gotta go to the ball and then pass it out to him? And then we had a saying where look, find Lamar in transition. You know what I mean? So me, like, you know what, look, if this was gonna help the team, you know what I mean? Like move the ball better or, get those guys out in open court, I'm fine with it. You know what I mean? So when I made that transition from the wing and power forward the previous year to that point guard position, and then hearing Tony was like, look, all right, cool, I'll play the wing. Like he went from our point guard at my freshman year to now moving to the wing. You know what I mean?
Small forward, because Lamar's athletic.
But we got her. But
he was small forward. He's right though.
So I got to get this in. So you about to play Michigan State, and somebody's out the lineup. So what was the accountability like to him for not being out there with y'all and y'all having to find a way to do it without him? Y'all choke him up in the locker room or what happened?
Nah, none of that. The mindset really was just winning for Tony so he get another shot to play. This our senior year. It really wasn't. It wasn't no animosity towards him. Like things happen in crunch time during games. Your emotions get the best of you sometimes. So it was none of that. It was, matter of fact, what was the time we wrote on the board? It was for Gabe wrote it, right? In the locker room.
Yeah.
He wrote something. I forget what it was, but it was a support. So it was none of that whatsoever.
Nah, I messed with my guy, man. But I think one of the things about your team that I remember was, that edge that you guys had, and specifically kind of led by Tony. I mean, y'all just had, and I think what a lot of teams picked up looking forward, like a lot of teams that followed y'all path and making runs like that, was you can't be afraid. You got to look like you belong out there. I think you guys really are the poster version for how a mid-major, low-major should look in the NCAA tournament. So, I mean, I'm looking at some of the names you guys played against in that run before you got to UConn: Shannon Brown, Ty Lawson, Tyler Hansborough. I mean, y'all beat a Turgeon coach team. So, like, going into UConn, I mean, playing UConn, I mean, it was essentially a home game for you guys. I mean, that's one of my favorite college basketball games I ever watched. Like, I mean, I've rewatched it multiple times, man. I think you guys played an amazing game. You knocked out 5-6 NBA guys. I mean, like, just talk about, like, what being in D.C. for that game meant to your guys' confidence and what you guys were able to do.
Go ahead, Lamar. I mean, for me, like it was, we were on national TV, playing at home. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything else. You know what I mean? Like, look, and again, we're supposed to lose. So just go out there and have fun. Go out there and compete like we always do, and just have fun. And I mean, honestly, I mean, I did it actually through the whole tournament. I took my matchups personal. You know what I mean? So Shannon Brown, Danny Green, North Carolina. I forget the guy from Wichita State, the small forward, big strong dude.
PJ Kuznar.
Yes, him. Like all my matchups, I took personal. You know what I mean? So for me, it was more so of a one-on-one than Rudy Gay. You know what I mean? And I still say to this day, it was tough guard. You know what I mean? Like he's probably the toughest dude I've had to guard, even overseas. You know what I mean? Just because he's right over the top of me. You know what I mean? Like I'm contested. I'm here, and he don't even see me. You know what I mean? So I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be a long game. But again, for me, it was more so Lamar, chill out, dog. I'm not gonna get on you. And then obviously Florida when we played who was their small
James
forward?
Brewer.
Corey Brewer.
Boy Brewer, exactly.
Yeah.
He didn't really do much, but yeah, like I said, I took him on personal. Just being close to home, man, it all felt good, man.
Yeah. I know for me, from a personal standpoint, man, getting that opportunity to be able to play. You go from finally playing well over the course of a 30-game season, 4-month long season, and then obviously I got suspended. So when you get that opportunity taken away, and then you get to sit watch it from the sideline, what those guys were able to do, with getting in there, stepping up, and just getting a little bit of everything from everybody, and watching that from the sideline was crazy, man. Because when you go into a tournament like that, we grew up as kids, man, wanting to play the North Carolinas, wanting to play the Dukes of the world, and so when you get that opportunity, you never really, no matter how competitive you are, you never really know what that outcome is going to be, and watching that thing possession by possession, I think probably. I would say going into halftime, I thought that we had a really good chance of beating them. We played them before the year before, and we played them pretty competitively in the BB&T Classic, right? The year before, and it was so we had their number that night, man. And after that game, obviously, like having the chance to play, I know for me, man, it was like, man, I don't care what it is, if it's 20 minutes, if it's 15 minutes, I got a chance to play, and whatever it takes, man. I definitely remember like the tournament for me being one of those games. I mean, being one of those times where, man, I tried to make every single right play, like just to make sure I ain't pissed these dudes off. You know what I mean? Not for this first 30 though. I got it in the first 30 games, but once we got into the tournament, man, it was just about being efficient and just making the right play, just to give ourselves the best chance to win. Because as you know, playing against teams like that, you got to be efficient possession by possession, and we executed at the highest level. All 6.5 guys played.
Now, LB, I got a specific question for you about this because I've seen you tweet a couple times about the Florida game. That you rewatched it and you see, like, you now can go back looking 17 years later, you see what happened. I want to get your thoughts on the Florida game. What was your perspective when it was happening, and what's your perspective as a coach now?
I don't know if this is for Shaq and Tony too. Did the game feel weird to y'all when we played the entire time?
I mean, we was in
like our rhythm, like didn't feel like we were in the same rhythm.
Nah, I mean not to me.
Not to you. All right.
Foul trouble early, so my rhythm kind of messed up. I got in foul trouble early. I remember that.
That was the first time in a long time. I'm talking about through the season where it just felt like we weren't in a rhythm as a team. Like I went with some possessions where I just lost the ball on a rebound. It was like some bunnies we missed. It was just like simple plays that we normally converted, we just didn't. And I just remember the rhythm of our team just wasn't there that game. Were they better than us? I mean, obviously they were that night. Going into that game, I felt like that was the championship, and I always felt like that, even till this day. I saw UCLA, I saw LSU, and I was like, man, if we played them in the championship, if we played them outside of Florida, I felt like we would beat them. And obviously, you saw the championship game. Florida was up by 30 at the half. I just felt like we weren't ourselves that night at all. And just looking back, like I talked about the adjustments we could have made, we just didn't see it. They were playing topside post defense, and we hadn't seen that before. And Tony was just wide open in the corner every single possession if Ja had just faced up, but we didn't recognize it. And like I said on Twitter and social media, I didn't watch it with the coach's point of view until recently, and I saw it, and it's like, man, they were giving us shots that we didn't even get to.
Yeah, that's turning the game. I've I've seen it as a coach, and it's a game of possessions, and sometimes luck is the common denominator, and the shots missed, the ones we missed, they connected on it.
Mm-hmm.
They were definitely the better team. In that game, I do think the atmosphere, and again, some teams are just better than others. It was a weird atmosphere standpoint. I guess the arena and the way we were kind of like the way the court was kind of set up. I think I even remember the ball just being like way different than it's been for the first like 35 games we played. It was just a little different from that standpoint, but that's not an excuse. I mean, they played a hell of a game. Obviously, it made some big shots down the stretch. If you watch the game, we were only it was a 2-3 possession game, and so if things would have just changed, of kind of went in our luck a little bit, 1 or 2 possessions in a row, the game changes. But that's the separation of being a champion, man. They were good. They capped.
And for me, one thing that I really want to see is I think they should do a documentary on that run, like 30 for 30, because of like what we've seen happen after that, and the fact that it's 5 guys from the same pretty much regional area that went to the Final Four, and I mean that's a story need to be told, because when people see those Loyola Chicago's and all of them now, y'all set the tone for that. I want to bring this up. So at George Mason, so part of what we do Alumni Basketball League is we put these showcases on between alumni teams. We did Georgetown, Maryland. I had did some myself. Folarin, you played. Some of the other guys didn't show up. But it was a good game. Y'all played. I ain't say no. I ain't say a word. I ain't say no names. I ain't say nothing. I just said But like so
wanted me to drop 95 in the rain, man.
You would think it was a monsoon, man. Like we was in the Amazon, man. But yeah, it was a tough day. But it was a good game. I'm sure Jason Miscuri was glad he didn't come. He got all the shots.
Between Jay and Folarin, I didn't need.
Jay ain't passing nobody.
I was about to say it was all Jay. I was out there getting rebounds and putbacks.
But so who did you guys consider your rival in the league? Was it VCU? Was it George Washington? Who did you guys consider your rival?
It was definitely UNC Wilmington early, because UNC Wilmington was really good. I mean, they were kind of probably the most consistent in the league at the CAA at the time. With Brett Blisner
and Brad Burnett was coaching, right?
Pillsbury. So I would say UNC Wilmington. I think VCU became a rivalry, for sure. And then after that, I think it was a competitive league, man. It didn't matter who we played. You had dudes like Juan Beret at Northeastern. You had Lawrence Stokes. I think it was like a Guido or something like that at Hofstra.
Antonio Guido.
Yeah, Guido.
Yeah.
So like, man, the top half of the league, man.
Guido. Yeah.
Top half of the league was as competitive, but real rivalry and one of the toughest places to play I would probably say Wilmington for sure.
Did you guys play GW every year or no?
No, GW wasn't in the CAA at the time.
No. I mean, did y'all still didn't play them? I know he was in the A10, but y'all didn't play them at all.
Nope.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so I want to kind of wrap it up. Just if all three of you could just give us, what you got going on now, that you want people to know about, and when we can support you guys and guys what you're doing. So starting with you, LB, what you got going on? I know you're a coach now. You kind of talk about that.
Yeah, I coach with Team Takeover, EYBL 16s, and I coach with Paula 6 High School in Loudoun County. So, yeah, I'm always on Tony line right now, because we kind of heavy right now on our roster. So, I'm coaching. Yeah, that's about it.
And Shaq, you're at your alma mater, right?
Yeah. I'm back at Mason, man. Helping with just dealing with alumni fundraising. You know what I mean? Just trying to help the program, bring money to the program. I'm always on Lamar line, trying to get Tone to come on back, baby. Come on back, baby. It's okay, man. You can give back, baby.
You said I can give back, huh?
Yeah. Look. We can talk about it with all the other stuff later, all right?
And Mr. Skinn, what you got going on these days?
Man, going into my 8th year in coaching. Obviously, the opportunity to come back home here just a couple months ago to University of Maryland, man. So just trying to bring back, kind of what we all kind of grew up on in the area, with the Terrapins and, the Hoyas just being kind of the schools that we all wanted to go to, and just kind of bringing that spirit back, man. I'm blessed to be home, to be doing this thing here, right in my backyard. So that's about it.
Man, I appreciate you guys, man. It's been great getting to know you guys. I know Joey a little better than Lamar, but, Shaq and Tony, me and Tony talk all the time. He's doing great things in Maryland. I'm a huge Terp fan, as everybody know. I support the program any way I can. So appreciate you guys, man. I appreciate everybody that was listening to this. Again, follow us, ablballing.com, at ablballing on Instagram, and at the ABL USA on Twitter. Appreciate you guys for coming in, man, stopping by. Thanks, guys, for checking in. We'll be posting podcasts weekly.
All right, man. Rick, thanks for having me on, man.
Appreciate
Yes,
you,
sir.
guys.
Appreciate it.
Good seeing y'all.